I think a lot of the key elements there, obviously free versus paid as promotional. I think one of the things we've learned is advertising matters a lot. Once you get in those rankings, you can stay there, but it's a quick cycle. I would maybe be interested to hear from both of you. You probably more from the experience of what has worked, and then from an enterprise perspective, what is going to constitute virality in allowing people to get discovered in an enterprise app store environment? Is it different than maybe the traditional consumer app store? Patrick, you want to start?
Yeah, I think it's going to be quite different. I mean, to be honest, in the enterprise space, you're probably going to look at apps really as tools and things that, in many cases, you might not really have the option to be using. It's kind of like, well, the sales team's going out and is going to be pushing this product. Your app needs to be updated because you need to be able to show the catalog to your customers. The consumer space is very different. It's kind of more of a function of, what do people like and how useful is it to them, and their intent to share that. So, as a matter of fact, at GetJar, we just released GetJar 3.0 yesterday, which is an updated version of our site. And as part of that update, it includes a large component of social. It's actually the first major app store where you can log into GetJar using your Facebook Connect account. And then any app that you download is going to show up in your newsfeed. So it's pretty cool. But I think, the enterprise space, I think you'll probably have multiple different classes of apps. You'll have some stuff that you really need to use, which isn't really optional. And you have other things that maybe are, recommended. So I think you're also going to end up having, an element of kind of mixing and matching between one or the other. Because at the end of the day, enterprise users are also consumers. They're also going to be looking at using tools which maybe are not necessarily sanctioned or endorsed by the company, but really provide a lot of value to the individual who's using it, right? Business-friendly kind of applications, whether it's something like, Lookout or Netkin, which allows you to back up your phone, on the fly and protect your phone and locate it in case you lose it, or something like Evernote, which is really kind of a business and a productivity tool. So I think there'll be a little bit of both on that side.
Ken, any lessons learned?
Yeah, well, I'm glad we're talking about discoverability, because it means that someone is actually discovering it on their own or working on finding it, whereas the previous paradigm was command and control, someone at IT who, by the way, is the least mobile in your company, right? They're never leaving the office, has control over what mobile apps that you should have, right? So we've kind of flipped that around and have crowdsourced applications. And I think one of the trends that we're also seeing is that people aren't just letting their employees recommend apps to each other, which our platform allows, but the next step, which is crowdsourcing ideas for applications. So large companies that I'm familiar with, they will go out to their network of employees and say, what application should we build next? Where would be the best place to put our resources? Because we're here about, to support you and give you guys tools that you need. We don't want to just build something that you're not going to use. Because by the way, with mobile and some of this new technology, you can track usage down to the page that people are on. So it's no longer, hey, we build it and it's, we're done. It's we build it, you have to let us know if there's an ROI here and see if we continue to work on it. So it's really about empowering the edges of your network to not only bring you applications, but bring you ideas and features to put into your applications.
Which is also kind of like, potentially scary if you think about it from an employee point of view, right? Because all of a sudden you get this kind of big brother syndrome. Right. I mean, we have, for example, APIs that will allow developers, to plug these into applications and to literally see what part of the application is the consumer using, and that gets reported in their developer page, and they can see the frequency and the different kinds of customers and what they're doing. So it's a good and a bad thing, in a way.
Ken, can you tell me a little bit about, we've had some discussions about apps earlier, and there's been some speculation of what apps would be popular within an enterprise context, but you have some real experience here. Any surprises or any kind of give examples of apps that have really taken off that you didn't expect? Categories of apps.
Categories of applications. Yeah. I think, well, it's hard to say categories. I think the best way to, the apps that I see that are really successful have one function. It's really funny. You open it up, you know exactly what it's supposed to do. You press a button, it does it. An early customer of ours was Anheuser-Busch, and you would think, beer, we're going to have some fun here, but they actually had an application that lets you find beer. That sounds kind of recursive, right? But they distribute over 240 types of beer, and for consumers, it's important to know if your favorite beer is served at a bar, because everyone has their own brand choices. It turns out that their sales team, their sales ops team, found this incredibly valuable because the laws in the US state that you can't serve certain kinds of alcohol in certain counties or states. So these sales guys need to know exactly what bars they're allowed to go into and sell their product. So, you know, it's kind of fun on one side, but it has incredible application on the other. But the app, because the only way that it's successful was that it just gave you one thing to do. And if you got to think of yourself as a beer sales guy. Do you really want something complicated or something that can just open up? So if you build something towards that use case, I think your application has a really good chance of being successful.
What if you're just an enthusiastic beer drinker? Would it be of value?
Then I don't think any kind of application. Okay. You want to spend more time drinking beer than on your phone, right? So.
Well, I want to take some questions from the audience. So if anyone has some questions, let's see some hands raised.